What's up, Wellbeing Nation? We're joined again with another special guest today. His name is Joshua Price, and you are with your host, Samir Bassine, right now. Joshua Price is a combat veteran powerlifter, competitive powerlifter, and he's just getting back from a really crazy injury. Ruptured your Achilles, right?
No, my ATFL.
ATFL? Okay.
Absolutely.
Ruptured the ATFL. And dude was a squatting beast. Still is a squatting beast, in my opinion. Squats a ridiculous amount of weight. It's the most inspiring thing to watch this dude lift. And I learned so much just from watching him move and brace and get his cues on point. It's beautiful to watch his squat. And it's cool to watch his recovery coming back from the injury. Like, it's awesome to watch him through his Facebook, through all his social medias, how he's come back from something that most people might even get crushed by. Like, oh, I never want to go back to lifting again because like now I'm crushed. I'm too scared. This dude rehabbed in a very like methodical way, and he worked around his injury. He worked through his injury, and now he's back to squatting like 560 pounds?
505.
505 pounds. That's freaking awesome. And competitively, you were squatting what?
565.
565 competitively, and now he's back up to 505. And while you were rehabbing, you were not supposed to do squats for a while. Is that right?
While I was rehabbing, the doctor didn't want me doing any squats or deadlifts for 2 months. So I had the surgery on September 5th, and I was supposed to be, no squat, nothing down past parallel until November 1st. And November 1st was my first day back in the gym. And like you said, the injury looked bad, and it would have been permanent had we not had the medical advancements that we've had. So according to my doctor, I would have been maybe 80% better for the rest of my life had I not had surgery. But because of the ATFL being one of the most common ligaments to rupture in the ankle, he was actually able to just slice open the bone, pull the ligament tight.
Could you tell him what the ATFL stands for?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. The ATFL is an anterior tibiofibular ligament. It's a ligament that joins the tibia and the fibula together onto, I believe they call it the calcaneal bone in the foot. It's the most commonly injured ligament in the ankle. Many athletes, Kobe Bryant, I think, has ruptured it a couple times.
Yeah.
Tons of athletes have ruptured it. I was actually surprised to see Cam Newton ruptured it recently. And the comebacks that a lot of these athletes have after rupturing it is actually pretty good, and it's because the advancements that the doctors have gone through to be able to repair that. It's really not that hard. They slice open the bone, they pull the ligament tight, they suture it down. You wait about 2 months, and it's about 99.9% better, anatomically speaking. Your body does have the ability to heal ligaments even if they've ruptured off the bone, but because they lack blood supply to ligaments, it could take a long time for it to heal, and the chances of it ever healing 100% is slim to none. So although I was scared when I fell down, the fear was actually legitimate, because in a world without the technology that we have now, I would have never been able to squat probably over 500 pounds again. So pretty happy with that.
So you during competition, where were you competing at again? What was the competition?
I was actually competing in Aurora, Colorado, and it was USAPL Raw Nationals. It was the 5th national event since the induction of Raw Nationals. Raw powerlifting in and of itself is really a new or more popular form of training. It used to be everybody would train and compete equipped, but now people are realizing, especially athletes, that they get more carryover when they don't wear, squat suits or bench suits, bench shirts in their training, and then they go out in the field, they're stronger, more explosive.
So when you went to the doctor and the doctor was telling you about what happened with your injury and the prognosis for how well you would recover, did you expect to recover so fast? Because in my opinion, you recovered pretty fast. Like I was kind of watching your progress from injury date to where you are now. And each day I would see a different status. Like now you're doing pull-ups, you're doing a bunch of pull-ups, and now you're doing single leg squats, and now you're doing all this crazy stuff. And then I see one day that you're squatting back to 500 pounds. I'm like, holy crap. So in your opinion, did you recover pretty fast? Were your results atypical, or were they something you just kind of expected because you knew you were going to put your heart and soul back into this sport?
Yeah, well, actually, my doctor told me that he had done this procedure about 1,000 times. Okay. Said he could do it in about 30 to 45 minutes, and he said I'd actually be 99.99999% healed within 2 months, and I could lift as much as my body would be capable of in 2 months. Damn. So I wasn't even surprised how fast I healed. I was just surprised that he could actually repair it like that without adding anything artificial, because there used to be only 2 ways that they could repair it, and it was either pins and needles and or screws, and I didn't have to get any of that. So no, I don't think my recovery was anything abnormal. I don't think I was blessed by any spirit to allow myself such a recovery. But I'm thankful that I was able to have a great recovery. And I need to point out that it was actually through the VA I had the surgery. And a lot of people have very bad experiences through the Veterans Administration when it comes to surgeries. So I made sure I told them a few times, hey, it's the right leg, make sure we do the right leg. And they got the right leg, he did the right surgery, and I'm back up on my feet.
Awesome, dude. That's really inspiring. So I got to ask you, man, like it takes a certain person to get underneath the bar and lift some heavy-ass weight, especially 500 pounds. It takes a certain kind of person, a certain kind of mentality, a certain kind of courage to do that. And I just want to ask you, what got you into doing this, to doing powerlifting as a sport? I know you were in the Army for 6 years, you were telling me, and then you started powerlifting soon after, I believe. But, what got you into it, and what got you to the point of wanting to squat that much, wanting to lift that much, deadlift, bench, all those main core lifts? What got you to it?
That's a really deep question, Samir. Actually, I do have a summary I wrote online detailing what exactly got me into wanting to powerlift. It all started out when I got back from Iraq in 2008. Right, so it was 2008, January, when I got back from Iraq, and I got into drinking pretty heavily. I was smoking at the time. I was on all kinds of different medications, being treated for post-traumatic stress disorder or what have you. And I really felt like if I didn't have a drastic change, in the way I live, that something bad would happen and possibly be permanent and, maybe shorten my life, cut my life short. So I actually went to my doctor, and she was, at the time she was a psychologist or psychiatrist, one or the other. And before she became a psychiatrist, we'll just say she was a psychiatrist, she was actually a physical therapist and had done that for like 20 years. And she said, hey, Sergeant Price, why instead, because I was running a lot at the time, I was wanting to work up to a marathon, because running was my first outlet for 2 reasons. One, I knew it would help me with my Army APFT test. Do better on the run, you're lighter, so you do better on push-ups and sit-ups, right? But it wasn't really, I didn't enjoy it. And I didn't enjoy it because I just wasn't built to run. And she's like, why don't you try lifting weights? And I was like, okay. So, I went to the gym and I started lifting weights in 2008, probably about April or May. And I lifted them and I felt better immediately. Not too long thereafter. And I just got hooked. And as far as powerlifting goes, it wouldn't be until April 2011 when I was actually training at Gold's Gym out in Bee Cave, Texas, where I ran into my best friend, Seneca Sarnella, who also owns Raw Power Gym out in Bee Cave. He was, at the time, he was 2-time Texas Strongest Man, working on setting a deadlift record in the USAPL for the state, which he did go on to do. It has been shattered since then. A lot of the records just 3 years ago have been shattered because raw powerlifting is still kind of new, and a lot of guys are coming out and they're really working hard to set new records every day. He looked at me. He thought I was from. He said he thought I was from Bulgaria or something like that because I was wearing these really short shorts to the gym, and people couldn't believe that I was actually wearing these shorts like that. And I just liked the development of my quads and my hamstrings, and I thought it was just show what you got. And I just thought it was pretty cool to show it off because, I wasn't blessed with a super awesome six-pack and upper body like a lot of bodybuilders and maybe some powerlifters that you see nowadays. For me, I've always been lower body dominant. And he was like, I guess he assumed that I could squat the world at the time, which I just couldn't. I just had a lot of hypertrophy. And he's like, why don't you just try powerlifting? And I said, okay. So I was like, well, how do I powerlift? He's like, well, you just got to get a program and, just do it and then test your 3 lifts. I was like, okay, well, what kind of program do you suggest? And he suggested an individualized program, but he said, since you're new, why don't you just try Jim Wendler's 531? So I tried Jim Wendler's 531. I ran it 3 times up to my meet. My first meet ever was in July of 2011. I squatted a whole 430 pounds. I bench pressed 305. I missed 320. And I deadlifted 500 pounds even. Within the past 3 years of competition, I've significantly increased my lifts. But that was the real reason why I started powerlifting or, lifting weights in general. And that's why I still emphasize you should focus on being healthy first. My journey began with health before it ever began with strength. And of course, being healthier gives you a stronger mind. And for me, I definitely needed a stronger mind to battle my dragons, as Sumer would say. So I could progress as a human being and live a good life. But I think what you should take away from this is if you are struggling, you should look for an outlet that's healthy. And hopefully I can inspire you to lift weights.
That's awesome, dude. So when you talk about dragons, and we don't have to get into this if you don't want to, but are you referring to things from your past? Or are you referring to things from the Army? Or what are you referring to?
Well, the Army is my past. I'm no longer in the Army. I got out in January 2010. I retired out medically, of course, at the age of 26. I believe I was 26. And, my dragons are, a lot of people have dragons, demons, whatever you want to call it, right? That's a really deep question. And all I can really say is my childhood wasn't too much better than the Army. But, gotcha. I really do wish that I would have, ran into weights a long time ago, to be honest with you. Growing up in a household where maybe my stepdad was a heroin addict and things like that. But the Army gave me the outlet at first, but then once I went to war, I needed another outlet. So I found that in weight training. And fortunately, I've come a long way in my recovery, not only through weight training, but leaning on friends and family and doing certain types of therapy, one-on-one therapy, group therapy, biofeedback therapy, acupuncture, massages, all kinds of different types of alternative medicines. But yeah, those are the dragons I'm referring to. It's just, a hard knock life. And I decided, instead of letting it beat me down, why not use all that garbage to motivate me to be a better human being? So every day I wake up, I just focus on what can I do to be better, instead of letting this drag me down. Because whenever you go through something traumatic, normally it's going to leave it's going to leave your chemicals imbalanced in the brain, right? So that's something that you can't change overnight. You can't change the way the human body responds to stressors. Not right away you can't. You can teach the body how to cope. That's a much better way to deal with stressors, is teach your body how to cope. And, and one way to do that is just, get your body in balance, get your body fed with good nutrition, and, do some resistance training of some sort and challenge yourself. And I think you'll find that it's much easier to live when you have healthy outlets.
Yeah, along those lines, I think a lot of people, it's hard for them to take themselves out of their head space. They get very cerebral with things that are going on in their life. And it's cool you found those outlets. Those outlets are so important. And I always go back to the body, because people start thinking about I'm stressed out. I'm having a hard time. Something's wrong with me. And they start overanalyzing a lot of things going on with their headspace. But like you were saying, when you can go back to your body and just do the basics, like give it the nourishment of movement. Movement is nourishing the body in a lot of different ways. You're